Are the Thunder struck, or is there a way to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander back on track? We're previewing Game 4 of the NBA Finals right now on Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, and host of the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And of course, thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here 7 days a week covering every single moment around the association, not just the finals games, but the biggest stories too. But we got Game 4 of the NBA Finals, and we are going to preview it for you. And John, let's just dive right into it. You want to play real or fake? Right off the bat. Right off the bat. He's
Hit the music.
There it is.
Is this real or fake? Just ask John and Jake.
Jake Madison, I got a question for you, man. Real or fake? The Thunder, I like how you put struck. The Thunder.
So cheesy, isn't it?
Thunder
I couldn't resist.
Are shook. The Thunder are a little, caught up in the moment. This is, spotlight's bright. The Thunder are a little shook by being in the finals right now.
So I'm going to go fake. I get why people might think that. I think it's a completely valid thing to ask. But I think this is a team that's also kind of been there a little bit, right? Like that series with Minnesota wasn't the easiest, let's say, and they still managed to kind of get the win and move on to the NBA Finals. So I feel like this playoff run has tested them a little bit more. If they had breezed through with just sweep and gotten into the NBA Finals and are now kind of facing their first bit of adversity, I'd probably be like, yeah, they've been punched in the face. They're not really sure how to respond to that. But it does feel like they've been punched in the face a little bit here so far throughout these playoffs. So that makes me a little bit less worried about that. I think
the answer is a little bit. It's the Robert De Niro impression. A little bit. This is horrible, but I think the Pacers have been there, not to the finals, but to the conference finals a couple of years. They have a coach that's won a championship. They have Pascal Siakam, who's won a championship. They have guys that have been through a lot of the battles, a little bit more so than the Thunder. I think there's a possibility here that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is kind of, I don't want to say struggling, but trying to figure out how much does he do on his own? How much does he get his team involved? How much does he have to pump them up? How much does he have to carry them? And that's a tough thing for young players, first time in the finals. You got a couple of guys in Jalen Williams, in Chet Holmgren. They're still on their rookie contracts, and this is a big moment for them. And you're seeing guys struggle from the free throw line. This is the reason why I even thought of this question is you have the best free throw shooting team in the NBA now shooting less than 84%, which is still good, but it's not what they're used to. It was
77% in Game 3, and they had some misses late where you're like, really?
Yeah. So I don't think their late execution, I mean, all playoffs long, there's been like ups and downs here, but there's enough happening here where I wonder, I don't want to say the moment is too big because they've had leads and they've had chances, but I do think there's like a little bit of tightness there that they have to shake if they're going to win this thing.
Yeah, so I think that's fair to say. And I think, the Indiana Pacers are probably a better team than most people realized. You did the math literally before we came on the show. I don't know if you still have it, but
I have it up.
Since January, February, Indiana's been easily one of the top teams in terms of win-loss record, right? So we look at them and you look at, their seeding and what were this? You had some great stats on this.
So, okay. So the Indiana Pacers all season long spent 2 days in third. That's the highest they got, 2 days in third, but they spent 4 days in 12th and 9 days in 11th. They spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in 10th. So they spent 22 days outside of the playoff picture, really.
Yeah.
And only 2 as the third seed. They spend most of their time as the 4th seed. So the Pacers, it's kind of shocking for, at a time where the Pacers on January 1st were 16 and 18, the Thunder were, I think, 23 and 9 or 25 and 9.
Yeah, something like that.
So I think the Pacers have just been in fight mode the whole time. And so mentally now they're still fighting, and it shows in their late game. Everybody just expects them. If there's a comeback to be made, they expect the Pacers.
You just assume it's game one. The second we both talked about it because we covered that one here. When Tyrese Haliburton went up, you just expected them to do it. Like you
absolutely
expect from them at this point in time. And look, that's a tough group to play against, right? It feels like you never get a break if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. You can't take a moment to catch your breath. You've basically got to be 100% the whole time, and that's not necessarily easy to do. But I do think they're a little bit tested, right? It was the Denver series, not the Minnesota series I'm thinking of with OKC, where it's like, oh yeah, they faced some adversity and they managed to do this. I think one of the questions is about them in crunch time, clutch situations where they have been outscored by Indiana. And, clutch situations is usually half court offense, and it's less in transition, where OKC is unbelievably lethal. But they also still had the second best half court offense per cleaningtheglass.com in the league this year in the regular season. So I'm still not worried about them just yet. Like when we talk about FanDuel later, I'll give you like an incredible thing with it, because like the OKC is still favored to win the series despite being down 2-1.
It's only 2-1. So now there's a prevailing thought that the winner of game 4 will win this series. And I think there's some validity to that, because if the Thunder come back and tie it up 2-2, obviously they now have home court advantage.
Yep.
But it's just, I still believe in the Thunder. Obviously I picked them to win this series in 5. So obviously I have very high regard for the Thunder. I think they can lean on their defense and make runs. And I think if they just relax, the tightness that I'm talking about shows up a little bit late. It showed up late. We did the post first game podcast.
You said that, yeah.
Said that exact same thing happened. The tightness of, we are expected to do this. Why aren't we making the shot? Oh my God, who do we rely on? And again, back to SGA. Do I have to do this? Do I have to carry this team? And I think there's just a little bit of figuring things out. And that's where the tightness comes. It's not a big deal. They can get past it, but I do think that there's something there that the Pacers have just been like, hey man, we're just doing what we do. We're always fighting. The Thunder have been like cruising.
Yeah.
And now
how many double-digit blowouts did they have this season?
Right.
Like it was like
and
insane
so,
number.
This is like the little bit that they have to figure out.
No, that's fair. And like, look, you saw them make really good adjustments in game 2 to get that big win and kind of blow out the Pacers. So you're seeing kind of the chess match between the coaches with that sort of thing too. And maybe it comes down to some of that of like, Coach Dagno is like figuring things out, whereas you have Rick Carlisle is like, I've been here before. I know what I'm doing. Speaking of adjustments, though, that segues perfectly into ways that they can get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going a little bit more. I don't know if it's sustainable, but it did seem like the Pacers had an option to deal with him or a way to deal with him in game 3, which led to the quietest performance so far. Let's talk about ways to get him going again. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night.
Can we take a second here? I just need to take a drink.
John, what are you drinking there, actually?
This is an Olipop Chris Apple. Have you had one of these?
I have a root beer one here with me as well, because these are delicious. Oh, I'm going to open this too. Like, let's take a break and drink these. I like soda. Like, I really do like soda, but I don't like big, heavy sugars, those artificial sweeteners or anything like that. And Olipop is soda that's got some good stuff in it here for you, with just 2 to 5 grams of sugar, 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can. Olipop is reimagining soda in a way that's just better for your gut. Regular Coke, 39 grams of sugar. But Olipop's going to flip the script with just a fraction of the sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and gut-friendly ingredients like OliSmart, a blend shown to provide digestive support and overall health. It's soda that tastes like the real thing, but does something that's actually good for your body. John, what's your favorite flavor?
Man, it's hard for me to choose, but this crisp apple is
really good.
This is really, like, I know this is an ad, but this is legit, man.
Yeah,
this is legit, and it's only 50 calories. So I'm like, I'm gonna polish this thing off before you're done reading.
Well, I'm upset that I'm talking so much because I can't drink it right now. So look, if you have those soda cravings, those classic flavors, but you just don't want all the negative stuff that comes with them, you've got to give Olipop a try. And look, you can get a free can of Olipop. Just buy any 2 cans in store, and they're going to reimburse you for one. Head to drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA to claim your free can and find Olipop near you. That's drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA to get your free can. Like, we are literally drinking these on the show. You've got to give them a try. And thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Locked On NBA Game Night, your first listen today and every day. We are here 7 days a week. We will continue to keep going in the off season. The NBA never sleeps. Always something going on around the association. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join us on YouTube as well. And we're going to be talking draft pretty soon here. And that means it's time to make Locked On NBA Big Board your second listen. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Rafael Barlow is going to be on Locked On Pelicans with me early next week. All right. Let's keep talking finals here, though, and really focusing on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because I've actually been a bit of a believer in the Pacers defense as they've kind of been an elite team in 2025. And one of the things you see them do throughout the regular season, a little bit tougher in the playoffs, is they pick up dudes half court and put a lot of ball pressure on you, and that forces turnovers. That also forces guards to just do extra work. You can see them kind of take away some of primary ball handlers, gets the ball in the hands of secondary ball handlers. Mistakes happen, and the Pacers tend to take advantage. They kind of finally employed a similar-ish defense against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in game 3, and that limited him to 24 points on 9 of 20 shooting. He only got to the line 6 times. He had 6 turnovers. It was by far his worst performance in the NBA Finals, maybe one of the worst ones that he's had in the postseason. It worked. They put a lot of high ball pressure on him, picking him up in high pick and rolls and basically throwing a double team at him. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to throw him off. And if the Thunder want to win, you're going to probably need more than 24 points and an inefficient night from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I think the big adjustment you're looking for OKC to make is, how do you get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going again and doing what he does best?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think you need him working. I think you need to go with the double bigs. I think you just need to put some of that pressure.
That's what I was going to say. That's got to be, to me, the quickest thing to try.
I just think with the pick and rolls with Hartenstein, with Chet there as a spacer, you get to put pressure on the Pacers defense to figure out how you match up with that. And it's going to mean maybe you go to Hartenstein for a couple of possessions. Maybe you attack a mismatch with Holmgren a little bit more earlier in the game. But I think a little bit more of that just to put pressure on, with Hartenstein rolling and Holmgren kind of popping. Holmgren needs to hit the threes, but just being a threat, it's going to force, I think, some of the Pacers kind of like, you want Thomas Bryant on the floor a lot? No, but maybe you have to go to that in these double big scenarios. So that's number one to me. Number two is on the other end. You can't give up the switch for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and have him defend as much as he did. I commend the Pacers for doing a thing I love to talk about on my podcast, defending with their offense. Mm-hmm. When you force Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to defend, they put him in the actions more than any time, anywhere. I saw a stat floating around that he was the closest. I think Kevin O'Connor put out a stat that he was the closest defender on more shots in this game than he's been all playoffs, maybe all season. And that is a way to actually defend Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because
it was by 5. I just pulled it up. He played 42 minutes. He was the closest defender in 9 minutes and 51 seconds. It's easily the most. It was over 52 possessions.
So that right there, that is actually defending him, because by the end of the fourth quarter, he's toast.
He was exhausted.
He's gassed. He takes 3 shots in the fourth quarter. That is, to me, as much as that's attacking a weak spot. And look, SGA can defend, but he's not their best defender.
Right. But it's about tiring him out and just making him work. And you could see it. And then when you're picking him up and double teaming him and making him work in ways that he just hasn't been forced to work because of their defense, you see it does have that knock-on effect of giving him tired legs in the fourth quarter. And if that's the case, right, that comes down, who do you want being your clutch guy? You want it being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But if he's not able to kind of be there because he's exhausted, which makes sense. That's a massive smart strategy from the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah. And I think their ability to switch onto him, it just keeps somebody in front of him the whole time. And it makes it less likely that he's going to be attacking somebody downhill and forcing,
and thus not getting to the line as much as you would imagine.
Exactly. When you're trying to get downhill, when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is getting downhill and someone, especially a big, if a big is forced to switch and just slides too close or puts a hand down to, Shai is just so good at grifting and emphasizing those fouls. That's the power of SGA, is getting to the line, getting you in foul trouble, getting you into the penalty, into the bonus. So by avoiding that, by getting him tired, I think that's what the Pacers leaned on. The Thunder need to figure out a way. I think for all of Daignault's genius, I think he's at one of, if not the best coaches in the NBA. It's not taking I'm not breaking any news
there. Yeah,
it's not a hot take, but I think he overthought it. We talked about this after game 1. I just think, and there's validity to not playing the double big against the Pacers, but there's also value, and you just got to find the right times to mix it in. I still think in clutch moments, it just has to be there, and you got to put the pressure on Indy to defend those two bigs and not worry about what they're defending on the other end.
Hartenstein is also a very good screener, right? So run Shai Gilgeous-Alexander through some screens and let Hartenstein clear some room for him. Sometimes it's like that, right? Especially with Chet out there, if you run a double drag screen or something like that, and you have him going through both those guys, are you going to defend Chet on a roll? Or if he pops out to 3, then there's Hartenstein setting a screen to try and clear more room. You do need to probably try and defend Chet on the perimeter. So does that pull someone out of the lane to give him more room to turn the corner? All of those things I think are very valid to do in that double big lineup. And it just gives them some more options that they're not getting with Case and Wallace right now, and it's allowing them to double team and blitz Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which, look, this is something that you and I have talked about, in the like 7-8 years we've been doing this show together. Sight lines for refs are important too. If there's two bodies kind of obscuring Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a ref might not see certain contact there. If there's one defender, it's a little bit easier because your sight lines are cleaner. This kind of plays into the factor of that too, that if you can obscure some of those sight lines, you can probably be a little bit more physical with SGA than you would be able to be otherwise. So this has just been a very smart defensive game plan by the Indiana Pacers against the league MVP right now. And it was so noticeable in game 3. And when you point to one thing, it was like, 24 points and 6 turnovers on 20 shot attempts is terrible for him here. And if they want to even up this series, they're going to have to find a way to get him going. And it probably at least starts with throw Hartenstein back in the starting lineup or run him out there more than 18 minutes and see what that kind of does for you, and kind of walk back what you did before, in a sense, which, look, that is kind of admitting that you were wrong, which no one likes to do, but it's the NBA Finals. Like, you just got to do what you got to do to get the win. And I think that's something that the Thunder are really going to look at. Like, I think you'll see big adjustments from them in game 4. And I think we both agree it's almost likely that Hartenstein's going to start this game. You think? We haven't heard anything of it as when we're recording this.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
No, it just seems like that's probably the move to do.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's going to be curious, and look, Pacers play fast. They often wear you down with the speed that they play. Maybe you don't want bigs. I don't know. It's the NBA Finals. Yeah. They're going to do a lot of things here. It's going to be a fun game. So coming up next, it wasn't Tyrese Haliburton who was the star for the Indiana Pacers in game 3. It was their bench. How sustainable is that? Let's break it down. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. The finals are in full swing, and look, we're having a fun game in every single one of these highlight-worthy performances from major players and bench guys. There's momentum shifts, can't miss moments. So whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off, and if you've missed it, they've got live in-game betting with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Despite being up 2-1, the Indiana Pacers are underdogs to win the series. They're plus 260 to win the NBA Finals. Maybe you want to take that. Get good odds with a game in hand here. You can do it over at FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Again, head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Today and every day, we are here 7 days a week covering everything you want to know about the association and the NBA Finals. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your second listen probably should be Locked On Thunder, probably should be Locked On Pacers, whichever order you choose here. But those two guys are great, and Rylan Stiles and Tony East. They've been doing a great job covering this series, their teams. They are there on location too, so you're getting insight you can't get anywhere else. Make them your second listen today. Did you think, John, we were going to have a TJ McConnell game in the NBA Finals? Did you think we were going to have a Benedict Mathurin game off the bench in the NBA Finals?
You know what? Yes. You know what? Yes, I did. You know why I did? You know why I did?
Because you listened to Locked On Pacers?
Yes. Also, last year, the Boston Celtics played the Indiana Pacers in the conference finals. And they were the most difficult series. They were incredibly, they were exactly what this was. And, there was some injury stuff and all of that. But I distinctly remember Jaylen Brown in the locker room talking about, some of these guys turned into Michael Bleepin Jordan. And he's talking about Mathurin. He's talking about Nembhard. He's talking about Nesmith. He's talking about those guys. And at any time, this is what the Pacers do. This isn't Tyrese Haliburton and friends. This is Tyrese Haliburton's an elite player. and we haven't mentioned him at all in this podcast yet, but because everybody has a role and you get big performances from 8, 9, like they went 10 deep. Who goes 10 deep? Both these teams are going into their benches, but the Pacers, the way they get this production from everybody, this is their formula. This is who they are. And so, yeah, Benedict Mathurin having a game like this, totally expected, because I've seen this before, man. I've seen these guys, and I've sat there and been like, how the hell is this guy killing you?
It's kind of what they do a little bit here.
It's incredible.
But okay, so when you say it like that, it's incredible, right? There's a connotation to that. There's like this underlying subtext to it, right? It's incredible, but is it sustainable? Because if it's sustainable, we're probably not like losing our minds over the TJ McConnell game or the Benedict Mathurin game, right?
Jake, listen to me here. The Pacers are up 2-1 in the NBA Finals, and Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Andrew Nembhard, Tyrese Halliburton, Obi Toppin, Ben Shepherd, TJ McConnell, Thomas Bryant, and Benedict Mathurin. Is that a championship roster? Is that it? If you
it might be in 2 games, it could be.
That's the whole thing. When I read those names off, you're like, there's no chance. I'm sitting here knowing that they're up 2-1 in the finals, but there's a piece of my brain that's like, well, this roster has no chance to win a championship, but here they are 2 wins away. So it's just wild to me. Is it sustainable? Yeah, it's sustainable, because they just, when we talk about the Thunder being tight, I don't see that with the Pacers, because I really don't think the Pacers give a damn whether it's the finals or January or October. They are just going to go out there and play like this. And yeah, they had their problems when they started the season, but once they get moving like this, and once they get this confidence, they are fully capable of doing this. But they're also fully capable of having a stinker. And this is the problem with the Pacers. Like, we sit here and tout how amazing Tyrese Halliburton, 1 rebound shy of a triple double, and Benedict Mathurin's amazing off the bench, but Mathurin could easily go cold in game 4. Halliburton could disappear again in game 4. Obi Toppin can not have, the big putback, and Ben Shepherd can miss clutch shots, and Andrew Nembhard could just get into foul trouble. All of these things are equally possible, and this is the Pacers experience. So sustainable, yes, but because the Pacers are who they are, the swing to the other side, it doesn't mean they're not sustainable. It just means this is the Pacers.
So what concerns me about it? So look, I'm with you to a point on this sort of thing. It's just who they are. And look, the results matter, right? Like, you win your games, who cares how, as long as you're doing it, especially in the finals. It doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't even need to make sense. As long as you do it, and that's simple. And who cares? When we try and project it out over a series, I am a little worried about it. And there's, I think, a reason why the Thunder are still favored per FanDuel, right? And when you look at the starters who are playing the majority of your minutes for you, in game 3, even, the Indiana starters outplayed, when they were matched up with one another, the Indiana Pacers starters, right? And if those are the guys that are playing the majority of your minutes, that's likely where that game is going to be decided, and thus the series is going to be decided. And if you're kind of relying on your bench to produce, I don't want to quite say like outlier results in terms of winning their minutes or plus minus, right? That is something that does worry me. Like, can you expect TJ McConnell to be a plus 12 in 15 minutes every night? Or even if that's more of like a plus 8, let's say, still really good, that is a slight concern that you need it to be that massive of a swing for you when it's your bench. And I've learned from kind of watching this and covering it, like, you need your starters to kind of obliterate and win those minutes a little bit more so.
Sure, because the Thunder bench, I think, wildly underperformed.
Yes.
In game 3. And I think that in all of this, just, gushing over the Pacers bench, deservedly so, there's Caruso only had 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
Hartenstein only had 4. You got 6 from Isaiah Joe, nothing from Aaron Wiggins. You know, there are points to be had and shots to be taken by some of these other guys. Now, there were a lot of turnovers, and the Pacers did a great job in limiting all of that stuff. Winning the bench battle by as much as they did is huge. It can be, you know, that advantage can be mitigated by Caruso and Hartenstein and, you know, other guys hitting some shots, getting a little bit more. And that's on, you know, SGA, and that's on these other guys to make sure that they're setting up some of these players. So I think there's another side to the bench and the depth and sustainability. It's OKC making it unsustainable by just not even having to match it, but eliminating the size of that advantage so the starters can do their job. The Thunder's starters are going to be the bulk of the offense. The Pacers' depth is their advantage. If you can negate that depth somewhat by just doing what you can do normally, then that's where then the Thunder starters do their job, and then the Pacers have to kind of scramble, and you force Halliburton and you force some of these other guys to do more when they might not want to do more. They want to kind of spread the wealth.
No, to be fair, right? This is also hypothetical too. We're saying a lot of if you do this, you still got to perform and step up. And the team that stepped up and did it is the Pacers, to their credit, when OKC didn't. And I don't want that to be lost in this a little bit, where we're kind of almost like looking down on like the Thunder and be like, oh, they won't be this bad. I don't know. They could be this bad because they were being this bad in this game here. So that's kind of a bit of a factor into it too. But, you know, I think you're seeing a lot of people say this, and I think it's kind of true, right? Whoever wins game 4 feels like they are very much in command of the series. Obviously, if you're Indiana, right, you're up 3-1, you're feeling fantastic. But if it gets to 2-2, OKC now has home court advantage back, and that's a really big thing too, and they're going to feel really good about that. It's going to be a fun series, man. Like, this has already exceeded expectations, I think, with where we are. And
totally.
So, like,
I picked Thunder in 5.
So did I.
You know what I mean? Like, and it made sense. Like, everybody did. And that's coming from a guy who has believed in the Pacers.
Hey, you're about of the people I know that's not like a Pacers person, probably the biggest believer in that team.
Yeah, but I just saw the Thunder. I'm like, man, 68-win team with that defense. I just thought it was going to be too much. I just thought there was going to be a little bit of a steamroll. But hey, credit to the Pacers for not making that the case. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is probably like, I would love for this to go 7. I would love for this to go 7 for one reason. I'll do this quickly. So many people, we talk about ratings and people not watching. When word of mouth continues to spread of like, oh my God, this stuff is happening, I think people will start to kind of catch on like, hey, you're missing something. You're missing a great series. So put your big market bias, and this is a Boston guy saying it, put your big market bias aside and like tune in to what's a really good series, because this is, you know, it's not the expected matchup, but it's a hell of a matchup.
No, and I think game 4 is going to have there's a lot of interesting storylines. You're going to see some really great coaching and adjustments made as some of the things we've talked about on this show. It's going to be a really fun game. I'm looking forward to watching it. And, you know, just tune back into Locked On NBA Game Night on Saturday, late Friday night, for a recap to see what happened, because we are here 7 days a week. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that's going to do it for us on Fridays. I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me at John_Karalis on Twitter.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.